evening, everybody. Giving us a couple minutes to troubleshoot. Just a reminder, in case you did it, there are sign-in sheets on the table in the hallway. There's both a visitor sign-in sheet and a resident sign-in sheet. So if you have not signed in already, y'all are gonna make me die laughing. If y'all haven't signed in already, please just make sure to sign in before you leave tonight. So, again, welcome to the February Neighborhood Association and our first of 2025. Woo! Woo! So with that, we're calling the meeting to order. So we have up first around neighborhood minutes. Have folks gotten a chance? Go ahead, Bev. Let's go ahead and pass to you.
Our agenda is February 3rd, 2025, not 24. And for our December minutes, we still haven't received October and November. Do you have an estimate of when we are going to be getting those minutes for bringing before our neighborhood for approval? We had 3 outstanding: October, November, December.
Yeah, we got December here.
Yep.
I would have brought November with. I didn't recall that we had not done November, so I can address that. And of course, October, the issue was I was not the one taking minutes that day, so that person's no longer with us. So, so that's not done, but I'm going to try and get that done.
Is there a video of that meeting?
I believe so. Should be.
Because if you'd like to share it, I'd be happy to help you get a draft together and send it to you.
Sounds wonderful.
Take a little off your plate.
That would be lovely. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll make sure to follow up with you shortly.
Okay.
So we can make that happen.
Sounds good.
On that note, is there any questions or comments about December minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
I move.
Yeah, motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that passes via voice vote by consensus. Thank you all very much. All right, moving on to our next agenda item. We have the Birmingham Police Department with us. So if y'all could, you can come, whoever's speaking, you can come to the front of the room, just in speaking distance with the mic for anybody that is with us online.
If y'all can't hear me, I apologize. Just let me know, I'll speak up. I'm Officer Qualtro, Sergeant Officer Baker here, South Precinct. We've done really good at kind of reducing some of the UBV suspects, or car break-in suspects in our area. That was mostly done with people's home cameras and actually letting us access the footage and recording it and saving it. So if you're not doing that, we always recommend to, actually do the subscription so we can access that footage later. It's been a huge help for us, especially recently. This recent cold snap, we did really good at getting some of the more at-risk people to the warming stations to help out with that. Really appreciate everybody calling in. So those people that didn't want to come to us directly, y'all helped out a lot. If there's any questions or concerns, please let us know. We'd like to pass it on. So just, anyone has anything they'd like to, yeah. Yes, sir?
We have a situation going I've called into 311 a couple of times. 2108 5th Street South. It's several via boat, a big limousine, non-running Ford, I guess the truck may run, and 2 other cars, one car that runs a big Escalade, and it's just eating up. I've spoken to both, one of the neighbor on one side is here. I live on 22nd.
You said it was 2108 5th Street South?
2108 5th Street South.
Okay, just vehicles parked blocking.
Yeah, it's just, you go through a big thing with that about 40 years ago, and it was a real, not in more this direction.
move up the chain.
Then got a tow truck to get that limo out of there.
We can start that process tonight.
And for minute purposes, was that 2108 Fifth Street?
2108 Fifth Street South, between 21st and 22nd Avenue, just 2 houses below where it tees on the 22nd. West side of the street.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. The intersection of Green Springs Avenue South and Green Springs Highway has been, in the past several months, pretty busy with people standing in the median. There's the one median when you're coming down Green Springs Avenue, you turn left on Green Springs Highway. It's a very narrow median, and driving by, I drive through there every day. It's a pretty tight left turn. And the other day, there was somebody laying down, like doing snowing, kind of move. What do we do? When we see that, I'm
You can call 911. We go to pretty much that intersection all the time. They kind of changed, or at least gave us certain guidelines on our loitering laws and how we're enforcing those. That's still kind of we're less proactive based on the new guidelines than we used to be. So a lot of times stuff like that has been kind of boiling or kind of going further than it kind of used to. If you see anybody, especially blocking traffic or, not using the public areas in ways that is conducive to everyone else using them, give us a call. That's no issue. We ride on that multiple times every single shift.
It's mostly like the lady that I drove by last night who was in a full-on zombie stance, leaning forward, just threatening to teeter over. I mean, I don't know how somebody hasn't ended up on
Somebody
the truck.
has been hit there,
Have they?
yeah, and killed,
So, I mean, they're
and I'd
just,
say that's been within the last 12 months. Whose responsibility is that? Is that a state thing that they are not doing anything about, and so you guys are not the first to be called? Yeah,
I don't know the exact answer. I do know they changed kind of the loitering, like at the state level, our laws and the enforcement of how we're doing that. I know they kind of congregated at kind of the exits of the interstate, because that was kind of more of that's state versus Birmingham. We still make actions on that, but when the guidelines kind of changed, I know the state roads were kind of a question mark area that became just kind of an issue for us in the city. I'll pass it on. We have an officer at South Precinct who deals with pretty much that community every single day. That's a different, patrol area than this specific one, but I'll let that beat officer know, and I'll let our officer at the precinct who deals with that community specifically we'll look at that more specific, because we have the recovery center that's right there, and then I know in the woods, kind of off Green Springs, there's kind of a community, and just kind of those two elements right next to each other has kind of led a kind of continual problem right there, and that's an everyday issue that we're trying to tackle.
yeah, it gets cleaned out and then it gets filled up.
Yeah. Especially with that abandoned school next to the recovery center, it's just been kind of an ongoing issue. Yes, ma'am?
You mentioned a recovery center.
It's gone. It's gone.
The recovery center is no longer there.
The Ross Recovery Center?
Yeah, it's gone.
I know that area kind of drew people in, or kind of drew people in. I think it's just kind of still been the issue.
Anybody have any other comments or questions? Right.
I mean, today I saw a guy walking down the street, and he had on a full ski mask and had sunglasses. And he made a cat call at me because I looked at him, as I was turning up and down my street. But I think somebody posted something in the neighborhood about it too.
I was walking Penny and saw him, it scared me to death. The trunk ran to my house.
Yeah, I watched him, and he went between the old Ross building. I heard him crunching through the leaves, but then I couldn't see where he went after that. So I don't know where he went or what he did, but it looks very suspicious.
Full black. He
Yeah.
had everything exposed in the mask.
Yeah, it's pretty consistent that our ability to kind of like cull those things down. A lot of times people just don't call, when we have suspicious characters in the area, feel free to call, give us a description, and we will definitely be able to canvass that. But a lot of times we're not able to monitor the neighborhood group chats as well as y'all can. So there's problems that kind of exist there that we sometimes don't even know about. But a person, wearing suspicious clothing, going behind the, unused buildings, that's definitely something we look into every single time we get a call for it. We get, 2, 3 minimum a shift. So yeah, feel free to call, especially if someone's making you feel uncomfortable. That's no issue to call us about.
Call the 911.
Absolutely. Or a non-emergency number, if you want to bother 911, but 911 gets to us just the same.
One of the high volume areas that we've had a lot of problems with is the Mountain View apartments, which has greatly improved, but there was a report from one of the local TV stations within the last 2 weeks that there was a shooting there at 3 a.m. and we never could get any additional information about that.
I don't have information on that specific. Do you know about what day it was?
It's about 3 a.m.
About 3 a.m.? Do you know the?
I cannot recall the date.
Okay, I can look it up, and next time I'm here, I can try to share that information.
Teresa, did you?
I was gonna look it up and give it to you, because I did reach out to DeVoris Ragland and ask her about it, and all she came back and told me was that they did have someone in custody. I don't know that they arrested them, but they did have someone, and that's all we knew. So, there's cameras up there, they have improved it a lot.
Right. Thank you so much, officer. I appreciate it.
January 28th,
January 28th?
That was the date of the shooting.
yes,
Thank you so much, Teresa.
February?
January.
February.
And I'll look at that the best I can and see what I can share.
January 28th, not February.
But if you have any other questions, let me know. But thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, doesn't appear so, but just, is there anybody here from Fire and Rescue? Seeing none, we move along. Mr. Tom, are you ready, or do you need some time?
Absolutely.
Okay, do you want to bring your laptop,
Sure.
be easier to bring your laptop here?
Whatever is easiest for you.
Okay, well, this is Mr. Tom Millard. I'm sure he'll introduce himself more, but his company he's with is contracted by Parks and Rec. So he's gonna give us some information about what's going on with the accessible playground proposal.
I'll share this. I'm gonna share the screen real quick. Hey, my name is Tom Millard. I'm with Given Recreation. We are the Little Tykes Commercial Playground distributor for the state of Alabama. And we have been contracted with the city to provide a new fully accessible playground here at Bessie Estelle. We've been working on the project for a couple of years, and I found out this evening, evidently you guys have been working on the project for several years also. So just for record, I acquired Giffen Recreation in early 2022, so anything that had kind of been done before that, I am not aware of. So we have two phases in this project that we are looking at, and we have, I hope you guys can see this. Phase one is Phase one is our independent structures. We have our rail gliders, our swings, our inclusive swings. We also have top swings and then your regular belt swings going along with that. We have a 4-person teeter-totter. We have a surface spinner. And then, and you guys will see all of this in the renderings and the flybys here in just a minute. We have some of our concerto pieces, which are musical pieces. And then we also have a zoom twist, which is a triangular piece. It's a climbing net. It looks like a cone that also spins. So that will be phase one. Everything also included in phase one is fencing, sidewalks. We have 5 what we call 2-post hip shades with benches, because obviously if you take your kids out there, grandkids, it's always nice to have shade. So they will be kind of, in phase one, they will be kind of scattered along this sidewalk here. Hopefully this will all make a little more sense when you guys see the renderings here in a minute. So phase 2 is the main structure. It is down here. We have some custom pieces on that are trains. You'll see that in the renderings. And that kind of goes back to Birmingham's history as a steel city and with all of the railroad. So I'm going to start with phase 1. You guys will see kind of what we have going with that. And then after that, we can move to phase 2, which will also show phase 1 included. One other item that we have, this is called our Quiet Grove. One of the things that Tykes and we have an Unlimited Play as our accessible partner. They came together with this design because you have a lot of children that get overstimulated very easily. And Quiet Grove is kind of like an area that you can go just to relax. It's set kind of aside from the playground. Kids that are on the spectrum can have issues with loud noises, screaming, just being completely overstimulated. This is an area that a child can go and sit, with a parent and kind of just settle to a point where they might be able to go out and play again rather than that parent having to just leave the playground completely. Got it, gotta go here so I can get to my arrow. This is the kind of a large picture here. You have your zoom twist and your concerto here, and then our rail riders. Get some better pictures.
Sorry, we watched
Excuse me,
the
sir.
same thing.
Yeah.
It's not just projecting on there, it's whatever you're looking at, you're the only one with.
I'm sorry, I don't know why it's not.
But your descriptions are great.
It sounds really good.
Are you going between windows?
Well, no, I'm all on one window. Let me try to share this one.
I didn't notice, it didn't seem like it was moving.
Yeah, sorry.
There we go.
Secret box now, so that's a start.
Let's head.
Hey, there we go.
All right, I can see that. Go back. That make a lot more sense. Sorry.
Get out of this.
Get this fast.
So this is our Quiet Grove. Again, there's a bench inside of there, and you'll be able to see it a little bit better as we go around this, again, phase 1. Your zoom twist is here. Your concerto pieces are here. And then you'll have a rail rider. All of this is sidewalk. And then everything inside of the sidewalk is poured-in-place rubber surfacing. So if you've been to a park and you've been on the squishy rubber, it's exactly what that is. So here is, again, this is your rail rider. This is the Quiet Grove. There's a bench in there, and there's some little pieces to kind of, again, try to center someone who might be overstimulated. You have bucket seats here for tots, and an accessible swing there, and then 2 belt seats on this side. And then we have our team totter. Here it's like a 4-person teeter-totter. And then this is a accessible surface spinner. And then again, as I was saying earlier, we'll have shades, along this area, just kind of all around this phase 1. Phase 2 in this area will be in this location here.
Where in the park exactly is this?
Yeah. So, and I'm sorry, the trees, we can't do like a live action, but I can go to. So this large tree, if you're familiar with it, so here's like the existing, you guys can't see this, hold on.
Where's Gable Square?
Where's the parking lot?
Parking lot's back
I mean,
down there.
which part of the picture faces Gable Square?
Do you know Gable Square?
Hold on just a second, sorry. I don't know why it's not sharing my main screen. Maybe this will work.
Faint.
I hope. Yeah. All right, so here's your existing playground right here, and I'm sorry, I don't know where Gable Square is.
It's like
That's where Google is.
It's that.
Okay, so this large tree out in this field will be essentially around this cutout section right here. Let me go to an overhead shot of that. So this area here is approximately where that tree is. So your street, the main street there is down here at the bottom of the page. Okay. Your parking lot is off to the kind of bottom left, and the existing playground is off to the bottom left.
So the existing playground is in addition to both this phase 1 and phase 2?
Yes, we will not be touching, we won't be anywhere close to that playground. Kind of wanted to set it a little bit back. One of the things that's big on playgrounds is fencing. You need fencing and to get it kind of away from parking lots. So we'll have accessible sidewalks all the way to it. So again, this is just our kind of generic rendering, but it gives a better kind of overview of the whole phase. Again, the tree would be somewhere in this area. And then we can go and there should be, this is our concerto pieces, the zoom twist, and then that kind of area for that tree. And then this, see if I can slow this down a little bit.
Does this take the bulk of that, has been the soccer field area? I know when my son was young, that was a soccer practice area, even to it.
The layout that we have done, there is I'm sorry, I don't know exactly where they played soccer, but there is a huge,
right there.
huge area as you, let me go back to Google Maps.
Yeah, it's.
The playground comes to about right
It's more of a
here.
practice area for the YMCA teams years ago.
So like, all of this area will be wide open.
Okay.
We'll have some sidewalks coming from this sidewalk down here, going onto the playground, and then we're gonna try to get one through here. We've got an issue right there with the drainage that we're trying to address.
So it's basically where the old playground, the
Yeah.
wooden one was, that was torn down about 10 or 15 years ago.
And I can share this stuff with you guys if you'd like. We have, and this is our 3D model, so, you can zoom in and go, and look at any piece you like. We have not done this for phase 2 yet, we're still kind of working on that design, but can definitely share that with the neighborhood, it's not a problem.
Where is phase 2 gonna be located in reference to this part?
So phase 2 will be right in this area, sorry, my mouse is,
Below that,
yeah,
between that and the parking lot?
yes, sir.
Okay. So the large open green space where kids like to, like I said, play soccer and fly their kites, that's not gonna be affected.
Is that farther back?
North.
That would be to the left, I believe, of, think now.
Just that part that was on the upper.
What you just showed it.
The north end of
The north end, yeah. That's space.
This area,
Yeah.
not impacted at all.
What are our aspirational dates for phase 1 and phase 2?
Phase 1, we have a purchase order for that. So we're probably about 6 to 8 weeks on manufacturing. The temperature will be warm enough then that we can put the port in place down. It'll take us probably 4 to 5 weeks to install.
45 from starting away.
After that 8-week period, so once we receive it.
So we're around 12 plus weeks.
Yeah, roughly.
Easy.
Ready for spring.
Believe it when I say it.
And then what about phase 2 once phase 1 is in place?
So phase 2 is still, I know they're working on fundraising for that. I have not gotten an update from Dr. Lee on that, so I apologize.
So is it
That's a little
fully,
bit beyond,
so is it fully funded for phase 1 then I assume?
yes.
Councilor Abbott, you may or may not know the answer to this question, but do you know how the $10,000 that the neighborhood association approved for this project is fitting in with phase 1 versus phase 2?
I have no idea. Community development, is not communicative with us. So
This is up
I was hoping that they would be communicative with you. But yeah, they control the neighborhood associations and the city council does not. We're working on fundraising so that we can have phase 1 and phase 2.
Yeah.
But we got phase 1 approved in the budget for this year. But of course, this year's almost gone. So,
Sounds like that might be a good question for beautification to tackle, because depending on what the answer to that is, then we can maybe highlight that as part of the fundraising effort for phase 2.
yeah, if they didn't, and I don't think they use the neighborhood's money for phase 1, but heaven only knows. But we're working on people in state government who previously committed money and then took it back when the city and Park and Rec didn't do anything. They took their money back, but a couple of them said they would give it back again in another year. When we actually were going to do something instead of just talk about it.
Thank you, Council.
Yeah, so phase 2.
I love it.
So,
Yeah, this is the best part. They're saving the best for last.
obviously train kind of theme based. Again, you'll see parts of phase 1 in this, and then overall, you'll be able to see the layout of it. And I'm sorry, it looks like some of phase 1 is in here, so. There's also kind of a clubhouse sitting off the side that leads into 2 swings, 2 slides. There's a better picture of it. And then this would be your overall. sorry that it's not fluid.
No, it's really good.
I feel dizzy.
You're just on the surface spinner. Spinning around.
Do we know what the budget is for phase 2?
We're not finished with that yet.
What is it for phase 1? I don't know that we ever were told an amount over all these many years. It's changed.
I don't, Councilor Evans, I love it.
Yeah,
Say
you can
that,
tell
and
them, I'm trying to remember. There were
so-
2 items on the agenda for the same playground. I never figured that out.
Well, so, the phase 1, I believe it was right at, 419,000. And that's for all the site work, that's everything that you guys saw there, and then, some sidewalks and fencing. We don't typically put fencing in because it blocks the view and the videos.
So that includes playground equipment, sidewalk.
Does the fencing incorporate the phase 1 and phase 2 areas?
So, on the sidewalk, what we'll do is we will incorporate right here, we will have fencing. And then, when we add phase 2 in, we'll relocate that fencing, reuse it. And then the nice thing about that sidewalk is, it's difficult to match board in place. If you've ever been to a park, you will probably have seen a patch. It's difficult to match it once it's already been placed. It's patinaed, it's aged. So this is a nice break in the 2 colors, so that really you won't be able to see much of a difference with that sidewalk. So outside this area, you will have fencing that stays, but in this sidewalk here, when phase 2 comes, we'll relocate that fencing and use it for phase 2.
What kind of fencing?
Right now, we have a vinyl chain link, black vinyl chain link,
How tall?
5 feet.
Yeah, how many entrances and exits will there be from the play area, like 2, like one on each end, or?
Well, it kind of,
One on each
the
side.
side, yeah, the side and then the front here, so essentially over in this area and then in this area.
So it makes escape more difficult. And so what age groups of children would this equipment accommodate?
2 to 12.
2 to 12?
Yeah. So our industry age groups are 6 to 23 month, 2 years old to 5 years old, 5 years old to 12 years old, or 2 to 12.
I have a question. Playing catch up here and trying to, whose brainchild was this idea?
So originally, the design or the playground itself? Councilor Abbott was instrumental in bringing this to Parks and Rec. Her and Dr. Lee, and I believe that was much before my time, I'll be honest. I had worked with Dr. Lee and Parks and Rec. We did the design on it.
So, and some of us that We've been around a little bit. There was a mother who had a handicapped child who was distressed that all the play equipment was for able children and therefore her child could just sit and watch. So she's the one who brought us the request, and it's been 15 years ago. And the neighborhood's been trying to get something moving for a long time, but our, little $10,000, $15,000 type contributions don't build much. You need big money. And so we've been working on it, and we did get the state senators and representatives to commit money. Then Park and Rec didn't do anything, and so they took their money back and said, we'll give it to you later if you ever get your act together. And we've been trying to get our act together ever since then. So it came from a mother who had a child who has since passed. So that child won't get to enjoy it, but, other children will. But that's where it came from. The neighborhood's been supporting it for all these years, trying to get something moving, and we finally moved.
Speaking of, so that mother, her name is Veronica Ware. I know that she had said that she's had some communications with Parks and Rec. Have you had any communication with Ms. Veronica Ware?
I have not.
I'd love to get her, if she wants to, her input as well into this. And Tony, Mr. Tom and I also talked before the meeting about trying to connect him with Marlise Delgado as well. Who, for those of y'all who don't know Marlise, she works for United Ability. She's a Glen Iris resident, but she works for United Ability and was a consultant from her professional job at United Ability on the project back pre-2017, when we voted on, last voted for that $10,000, fall of 2017. So, yeah.
I have a question. With all this back and forth between money here, now it's taken away, and all the Who Shot John has been involved over 15 years, is it fair to say that phase one is paid for, in the books, gonna be done, or is the rug gonna get pulled out from under it? It's done.
It's been approved by the city council, and now it's in
So
the mayor's
We
hands.
have a purchase order in hand.
So,
It's-
all right, now, so phase two may or may not ever happen. Or if it does, it may happen in 15. No, it's not your fault. I mean, I'm not saying it's your fault, but to be fair, it may take another 15 years.
As far as I have been told, they are pushing forward, so.
Who's the they?
I don't know. I just.
Counselor, do you know who they are?
They are as us, our council office, and then the mayor's office has promised to assist. And we have senators and representatives who have said that they will help. And last time, my recollection was that Roger Smitherman and Linda Coleman Madison had both contributed money. There may have been more, but those are the people whose names I can call.
And that money's in phase one, but not guaranteed for phase two.
Well, yeah, phase one is a done deal. Unless Trump can wave his magic wand and steal the money away from us or something. It's that, but it's approved, so it's gonna happen. He's gonna go out and dig in the dirt.
I'm just thinking it's a
phase
presentation for both of them, but phase two could still be a possibility.
Well, since phase two has the train in it, I really want
Yeah,
to.
I'd like to see that too.
Originally, we had designed this as one playground, and the budget was too much. So we were asked to try to find a way to separate it in a way that was logical, and so that's kind of where this is how we ended up with two phases.
Do you remember what the initial budget was before it was separated out? Approximately, I'm not gonna hold you exactly by dollars.
Somewhere around 900,000, somewhere, 800 to 900,000.
That's approximately what we used to hear.
Trains are expensive.
Did this have to go through was part of the delay, did it have to go through a bidding process, and were y'all the winning bidder, or what?
We are, it's purchased via cooperative.
Say again?
It's purchased via cooperative. There's cooperative purchasing agreement that is purchased through.
Yeah, the state of Alabama has a lot of pricing that we in the city, any city in Alabama can use it. And there's also federal, people that have bid on federal projects, if they're willing to put their pricing out there for anybody, then we don't have to bid and the project will go faster. Well, just imagine, as slow as this thing has gone, if we had to wait for a bid, we'd all be in the grave. So, this is a good thing that we're allowed to do now that we used to not be allowed to do.
To be clear, the cooperative is publicly bid.
Mhm.
So it was publicly bid, it just wasn't specifically for this project.
Yeah.
Council, did the city ever finish passing the budget? Because I know the mayor had set proposals to.
Yeah, we passed a budget this year. We're gonna be back to normal again if no more pandemics come and nothing crazy comes from elsewhere. We'll be back to our normal process of the departments putting together a proposal and then that proposal being vetted with the council and the mayor, mostly the mayor, and then it being presented to the council.
So the FY, real quickly, that means that all of the FY 2025 specifically, that's completed.
Yeah, that one's done, but 26 is coming.
Good to know. Thank you so much.
July 1st will be here before we know it.
No, you sure? All right. Does anybody else have any other questions? All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Tom, for coming to join us today. Made the impossible happen. We've been trying to get this for about a year, or if not longer. So we'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
And you're gonna send your presentation? And then he can send it to everybody else and they'll all be happy.
And if Mr. Delgado would like to, we can come back up. So Little Tykes partners with Unlimited Play, they're a nonprofit. It started by a mom, very much like what you guys have said, a mom whose child was wheelchair bound and has passed away. But Natalie has actually presented to Parks and Rec. And I'd love to have her come in and present to you guys and to Mr. Delgado too, if you would like. So we can set that up for sure. Okay.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you guys.
Was there, I'm new here, but was there ever a discussion of like naming the playground after this very thoughtful mother?
I think so. Yeah, we talked about naming it after the child, after the mother, after.
I don't think that it's been anything formally done along those lines, but if that's something that we want to do, I think.
Well, we can always suggest it. We have no power to do anything.
I do
But we can ask.
know that if we're going to do that, we should probably speak with Ms. Veronica Ware first, obviously. And if she's interested in that, then the neighborhood can consider voting to recommend that to the Parks and Rec.
And the inclusive playgrounds Little Tykes does, there are numerous opportunities to have a panel made, anything, whatever the child's name was, Lucy's Playground, however, we could name it, whatever, and that's not an extra cost, it's just, when we go to design it, we just need to know, so that would not be an issue.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Doing my part.
All right, Community Resource Service Division, I obviously is not here, I'll just state what I know, which I know is the big question on a lot of people's minds the last couple of months has been what's happening with elections to fill neighborhood officer vacancies. So I'll start off by stating that there was so for those of you who know, neighborhoods make up 23 community associations. Those 23 community presidents make up the Citizens Advisory Board. And of course, myself, Scott, for 10 plus years was the Southside Community President. And two of the officers stepped down, and So there was supposed to be a January meeting, which would have been MLK Day, so obviously it was canceled. There was a special call, it was supposed to be on the 29th. And 2 hours before the meeting, CAB got an email from Community Resources saying, essentially it's not their meeting, but they essentially canceled the meeting, and they said it's because the city won't be hosting the CAB elections. I mean, that was an email from January 29th, so what, 5 days ago? And I spoke to Miss Melanie Martin today, and she was acting like she was gonna still host our elections, but that she wasn't gonna be able to come tonight, which is the third meeting in a row. She said she's gonna come to, and then last second doesn't. And I asked her if I had permission to announce it for us to host them in March. She said, no, I do not have permission to do so. So I've asked her for a commitment to come to make sure to come to our March meeting, waiting for a response. Now I mentioned this to Bev via email, which is, I mean, this isn't sustainable, and this isn't fair to our neighborhood, but we can't officially host the elections, but we have to do something, right? In my opinion, it's me speaking for me. So in the short term, I think what that means, we started talking about this in December, but we're gonna really, I told Bev that I'm gonna call a neighborhood advisory group meeting. I'm gonna send an email about it this week. And so we can host that if folks are available this month. Because I can't, nor do I want to, nor have I ever wanted to, be in this role by myself. We need to figure out how to better come together as a neighborhood, whether that's through the neighborhood advisory group, through our committees, to be able to make sure that everybody's be able to be involved. And to be able to better address things like how Bev lovely stepped up to help with the neighborhood minutes, which I've been having to take for months. So that's kind of, Bev, that's kind of it for what I have, but if there's any questions or comments.
So we have a lot of folks here that really hasn't participated in a while. I'm gonna stand up so that we can talk
Please.
about this. So how we have gotten to the point where we are is that there was confusion about one of the elections. And we have a lawsuit that's been brought by our president, our candidate for the vice president, and the secretary who has resigned. And because of that, the city is telling everyone we can't have elections until this is resolved. So that's where we are. This is how we've gotten to the point where we are. Personally, I have never been in an organization that has had as much confusion as what we've had over the last 2 years. There was an advisory committee, I believe, that you did have early on. It was like pulling out to try to find out who those individuals were. They were never formally introduced to our crowd. In the past, typically it has been made up of maybe the immediate past president. You look at transition when you're looking at an organization, that institutional knowledge that you want to have. So as I understand from Rob, there might have been a couple of meetings early on. There hasn't been much since then. He did bring this up probably, it was either in October or November as we were talking about this. And unfortunately, we still don't have anything in place. And I'm very concerned that we have one person who I reached out to 10 days ago, never got an answer. I texted, never got an answer. I tried to call, got voicemail, and then this afternoon before the meeting, I get an email that I've had tech problems and not been able to communicate. So, this is a bother for me. I would think it would be a bother for most folks. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Bill, can I ask you a question? when you're talking of strictly this association can't have an election, but it
It's
doesn't
the
affect
entire city,
entire city. Okay.
none of the neighborhoods, if someone, stepped down.
That is what the community resource services
Yes.
position is that they are not conducting elections.
Theoretically, all the offices already went vacant. I mean, we should have already had
Yeah.
elections back in the fall, we should.
And that's for every association in the
Yeah,
city?
yeah.
No, so there's really no official anybody in any association?
Well, there continued in office, there was a precedent during COVID where they kept us in office.
They kept everybody.
Yeah, obviously there's a precedent for it, but the problem is we don't know until that lawsuit's handled, they're not gonna be able to pass certain things, so you get all these vacancies started popping up. So the way the old rules work, when apparently community development isn't playing by the old rules anymore, is community development would announce a vacancy for an officer position, and then it would be the following meeting, even hold nomination and vote in the person for that office.
And the
And for
only reason,
clarity-
the only reason I haven't yielded the floor yet, please. The only reason I bring this up is there's an elephant in the room. I supported Rob from the day that he was elected. He was the elected president. So yes, I did support Rob.
I think right now, in my opinion, we need to be talking about how to move forward and come together. I do not think bickering is productive for us to identify pathways forward. So I would just request that we please work on how to identify ways to work together and not create division. And I also just will state to build off of one of the things that Scott said is when he said that there are, like, I don't remember the wording used, policies or procedures, whatever, around the election, they're supposed to happen in October. What's being referred to is what's called the Citizens Participation Plan, which is an official plan that was the official document approved by the city council. It is not like simply a department policy, it is an official, like, passed by the city council policy, and it's about implementing the consolidated plan, which comes from underneath HUD, Fair Housing Law. And it includes how the city is supposed to host elections. And so that's what Scott's referring to specifically when he says they were supposed to happen in October.
Can I make a motion to table this conversation to return to the agenda, and at the end, when we have more time available, to return to this? I do think it's an important conversation to have.
Sure.
Just want to get through the updates that we have on the agenda.
And I mean, unless somebody wants to second it, I don't think we have to second the motion. Just move along. Trevor, if you?
Sure.
Great. Nobody here is from the library, so Councilor Abbott, the floor is yours.
Certainly good to see everybody tonight. There is not an enormous amount of exciting information on the city council agenda this week. So I would just ask if anyone has any questions about anything that we're either up to, you think we might be up to, you wish we were up to, like anything. Michelle?
Yes, ma'am. Do you know what the status is of Green Springs Highway beautification? The funds that 2 years ago or so were approved, and they were gonna update and do the median all the way from, I don't know, maybe back here up to Valley or somewhere near there on Green Springs.
Yeah, that is still planned, and they are in the right-of-way acquisition phase. You would be amazed to hear that there are property owners on either side of the highway who are uncooperative with having improvements made on Green Springs Highway. Of course, it shouldn't surprise any of us after living in this neighborhood for a while, some of the strange things that go on. But the idea is to put in a sidewalk on the other side of the highway and new lighting. I think we could skip the landscaping since we always just let it die anyway. There's no point in wasting public money on dead bushes and plants. All of us who were here and tried to work on that phase one know that every single thing they planted is dead and gone, except the ones that are holding on to the plastic bags from Walmart that have blown out of people's truck beds. So the landscaping part's not so good, but having a sidewalk to walk on, maybe getting some striping on the pavement so that people know that there is a sidewalk over there and that they should not crash into the curb when they're speeding down the highway, probably scares the people on the sidewalk pretty badly. But that phase is still on the books, and they're trying to acquire right-of-way because Green Springs Highway has been expanded so many times that there's not right-of-way left over to put things. Like the reason that the sidewalk is right on top of the pavement is that there was no room to put a median or a planted area, even with dead plants in it. There was no space, and so the sidewalk is right there on the pavement. I mean, if you ever walk it, it's a little bit scary. You know, you think, I hope all these people aren't looking at their iPhones right now. So, but it's coming. But it's like everything in the city. 15 years for a playground, you know, kind of normal for us. We're just slow. But it's coming. It's still on the books. The improvements on Richard Arrington Jr. below Vulcan, you know, that road diet and everything, that's still on the books. It's still coming. They're working on the design for that. Of course, we're getting the car wash, which means we're going to reduce the cars coming their way, which I think is kind of funny. But anyway, so all our projects are still there. They're just slow. Yes, sir.
Counselor, I know there's been a lot of conversations about short-term rentals.
Yeah.
Curious to know if there has been an update on the city council side or sort of where some of those ordinances stand.
Well, we have asked for an update at our last planning and zoning meeting, which was well over a month ago. They were supposed to make some changes to the ordinance to give us a version 4. So we've already ditched versions 1, 2, and 3, and now we're looking at a 4th one. The Zoning Advisory Committee of the Birmingham Planning Commission recommended to the council that we not allow them in residential zone districts. But there are 3 people on each committee, and my 2 colleagues who are on the committee with me didn't like that idea, and they wanted to put them in residential neighborhoods. And so some changes were requested that the legal department and PEP, which is planning, engineering, and permits, they were supposed to work together. Well, they forgot. And so they didn't come to our meeting last Wednesday before last, so we canceled it because that was all that was on the agenda. They're supposed to be on our agenda this Wednesday, which means they will have had 6 weeks to work on it. And they have told Dr. Lee that they're not sure they'll have something ready in time for us to see it ahead of the meeting. And I have strong objections to going to a meeting where you are given a pile of paper that you haven't read and you're expected to approve it. I don't do that. So if they can't give us anything before the meeting, then they just need, we need to give them a deadline and tell the mayor that we want him to commit that they will actually do what they're supposed to do because they're his people. So short-term rentals are kind of languishing because the city staff is languishing. And of course, we assume they're languishing because they have so much work to do that they just can't get to it all. That's our story and we're sticking to it. May as well. So that's where we are on short-term rentals. My personal feeling is they don't belong in residential neighborhoods. If we have a housing shortage and if our population is declining and our schools are declining, why the heck would we want to fill up our neighborhoods with little mini hotels that do not have residents, they do not have children, they don't send them to the neighborhood school. Pretty soon the school board wants to shut down the neighborhood school because it doesn't have enough kids. So there's a lot of strange thoughts being processed in various people's heads. And I just think that if these neighborhoods are residential, they should have residents. And there are people who say that the law says that somebody who spends the night in our neighborhood is a resident. And I would say that is
bullshit.
I wouldn't say that, but that was a really good guess. Well, I'm not supposed to say that. It's not, I've never said it. But anyway, yeah, that's hogwash. That's a good word. Whoever washes a hog. Have you ever thought about that? Yeah, anyway, so, you know, my thought is, I want a neighbor next to me. Now, we've got one poor woman up in Redmont. She's got one on this side of her, and one on this side of her, and one behind her. Now, how would you like to live with that, especially when they get all their guns out and start shooting them? And she has children. So, we're not being fair to our residents. You know, we say putting people first. What people? People in Minnesota? Because most of on 12th Street, where we have 12 short-term rentals, they're owned by people in Minnesota. I didn't know people in Minnesota knew Birmingham was down here, except for the past. So they own short-term rentals. Do you think they give a hoot about us or our neighborhoods, or whether they're trashy, or whether we can find a place to park in them? No, they care.
That's not to mention the vacant houses up, you know, from 20th Avenue down. I can think of several, you know, several have been filled lately, but
Yeah.
there's the Purple Onion guy house on 22nd Avenue.
Yeah, we have a lot of vacant houses in our neighborhood. If you gather all of the information from the census, you will find that our community has lots of vacant houses. Now, what their problems are, I can't say. But turning them into mini hotels does not solve the problem of people having a place to live. It just doesn't. No one can convince me that that's going to solve anybody's problems except people who own them. Now, they're very enthusiastic about putting them in our neighborhoods, but that's the people who are making a buck off of them. And you can make money if you want to buy a house and rent it out. All those vacant houses could be rented to someone. Hopefully not fraternity houses, but, you know. So that's kind of where, I know that was long-winded, but I feel pretty strongly about this short-term rental thing in residential neighborhoods is a bad idea. Everybody else can just duke it out. But people came from the Pizzits, they came from high-rises downtown and said that they don't have neighbors anymore because the units near them are being rented out as little mini hotel rooms. So it's not just residential neighborhoods, it's all over the city. But our population is dropping. Montgomery's going to be the second largest city soon. So do we like it that way? It's a question. But anyway, and in the rezoning, which got done despite many people's objections since it was the night when they were advertising snow, the decision was made by 9 people. 9 people made the decision on the zoning for our neighborhood, for our community, and for North Birmingham. The north side and the south side were approved at the same time by 9 people. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand if you were there, because I know who was there, because there were only 9 of us. That's pitiful, but I believe that it was the city's fault, because I think if there is snow coming, even if they tell you it's coming at 3 o'clock in the morning, you may not go out to a meeting because you may think the weatherman's been wrong before. So you might sit home in your warm house and stay there. I'm going to assume that's what happened. Hope and I were there and we voted no, because we thought the plan was
Crappy.
yeah, that too. And they wouldn't let us make any changes to it either. They said, no, no more changes. We're voting on what we've got here on the table. So Kay's area is zoned D5, multiple family. We can get us some high rises going. See, I don't think that's right, but that's just my opinion. But I was one of the 9 people who made the decision, even though I guess it was 6-3. Because 3 of us voted no.
I think more of us voted no than that, but.
She said it passed.
Yeah.
The city said it passed. So, that's where we are. Are there any other questions about anything else? I think I've been here long enough.
I thought the rezoning was changed back with Sheila's.
Sheila got changes made over in 5 Points, but our neighborhood was kind of asleep at the switch. So they didn't change it. They said too much of Idlewild was R5 already, but D5 allows taller buildings.
Yeah.
And see, well, that's just another discussion for another time, but we've run out of time unless people complain about 9 people being able to make the decision for all of us. Which I think is worth crying about, but.
Well, since we're talking about it already, instead of having it as a separate update, just a note of steps from there is that the next 2 steps that happen is, and I'm gonna be honest, Council, you might know which one it is, I forgot the order that this happens. The next 2 steps is this has to go before, is it ZAC next, right? And then.
Yeah, I think it goes before ZAC for a public hearing and then the city council.
Okay. And then somewhere along that process too, the city, since it's a rezoning, has to send a flyer out to like all property owners that the properties are up for rezoning.
I think they send a letter to every property owner, whether it's gonna be rezoned or not, just telling them it's happening. So they might ask for it to be rezoned even though it's not going to be.
Right. So I think just only there's like 10,000 plus, different letters that will be sent out about that. So those are the only other information I have outside of what council said. Yes, Tony?
I want to take us back a minute ago. I don't really like the way Bev got shut down. Natalie, nothing against you at all. Bev, and don't roll eyes, dude. I've been coming to these meetings, and this is a thing that's lying below the surface in this room. And I've lived in this neighborhood for 20 years, and I stopped coming to the meetings. I didn't come back to the meetings when I moved back to town, simply because of all I heard was the fighting that went on in here. This fighting has subsided. We've stopped fighting, and now everybody's just living in a bad marriage. And I may be wrong if I'm pointing this out. Anybody can call me on me if they'd like. I personally, I voted for you. You called me, you talked to me. I was cool with it. Sounded good. I said, you know what, we need some youth in. Let's get some youth in the neighborhood that'll draw us in. Then all I heard about was World War III going on inside this room pretty much every month for every meeting. I had too much stuff in my schedule to come in here to add this layer of stress to my world. Okay, so I'm back. And I have been coming back now, and I've been coming back since last spring. And so probably coming back about a year now, coming up on my anniversary for coming back to these meetings for a year. I gotta give it up to Bev, because Bev keeps everybody informed. She is the unofficial neighborhood information go-getter and make sure it's out there when you disappear. I'm just calling it like it is, because I worked on a project starting last fall, and I said, don't shake. I sent a lot of updates to you, and I got zero response until we get back to the meetings. And so the thing that I'm having the biggest issue with is that you just called for unity in a room that you created the division in. You were the leader of the division. So I want to know what the unity that you are referring to is, because you currently are the reason that we can't have what we need as far as leadership in this room, and I've sat and not said anything for long enough. And so I just want this out there because it's just living below the surface.
Tony, when have you called me to have this conversation in a one-on-one basis?
This is not about you and me.
No, you're asking this question. When have you tried calling me to have a conversation about this on a one-on-one basis?
I don't know you will call you. You owe me emails as the community, the community, whatever committee that I'm on and stuff like that.
When have you called me
You stopped responding to me.
to have a conversation about this?
This is not about you and me. This is not about you and me.
Because you haven't. And this happens on a constant basis. This is why there's conflict. Our residents need to communicate. And right now, there is none. People talk behind backs. Let's work together. Okay? I see people shaking their head as well.
So you see how you just came at me?
There's obviously a difference of opinion.
You see how you just came at me?
That is why communication, no, I'm not saying this is your fault.
I know it's not my fault. You just made this about you and me. And I'm telling you is that the attitude that you're having right now with me, which is a mistake, is what everybody in this room feels when they talk to you.
I'm not blaming you, Tony. You asked me a question, that's why I'm responding to you. If you'd like to talk, let's talk. Okay?
We're here.
Anyone wants to talk to me, call me.
Rob,
Sounds good?
Rob, I want to talk to you. Can you recognize?
Call me. And
No,
let's
I
talk.
want to talk to you.
205-538-3038.
I want to do it. I want to do it in open forum. I think Ms. Abbott has done exactly what she's supposed to do. She's using common sense. And I think common sense in our city has gone out the window. A lot of what's gone on here, I'm like, this gentleman, I got his name, is I started coming because I live over the mountain and started coming, and it was like just a bitch session, back and forth, and sidestepping questions and never really getting anything accomplished. So Ms. Abbott, graciously addressed it as common sense about these mini hotels. That makes sense. But a lot of what goes on in this room is not common sense. If there's a lawsuit going on, y'all work at getting it settled so we can move on. You're saying move on, but if that lawsuit is keeping us from moving on, then that's on y'all, the people that are part of the party or the legal department or whatever. But y'all need to move on. Don't say, oh, it can't be done. It has to be done. If you truly care about the neighborhood.
I didn't say nothing can't be done.
Well, then,
and I agree with us.
Then at the next meeting, there needs to be, like, as she was saying, people that are parts of a problem need to come together. And the next time we have a meeting, is say, this is what's been done since the last meeting about getting this lawsuit resolved.
And that is what I
really
just
want to know all
called
the
for.
ins and outs, but if that needs to be moved on, it needs to be moved on, not shelved.
What I just called for is exactly what you said, that parties need to come together outside this meeting to work things out, and then we can come back to a meeting and present.
Who are
Right now,
the people, the
there's
parties?
complaining, there's complaining in this room about.
In the legal department? I
Sir,
don't know who the parties are.
Sir, do not speak over.
Ha! Hey, check it out. Check yourself. We are tired of you speaking to us like this. I have listened to this. I'm not calling you. We're in a meeting right now with the neighborhood. We are the neighborhood.
We're done.
Can I be recognized?
We're done.
Just for a second. It might add some clarity to what y'all are talking about. And I'm kind of getting into this conversation late, but I'm not familiar with the lawsuit, Rob.
Let's not.
Can we talk about it after the meeting?
Well, there may be other people in here that are unfamiliar with the lawsuit.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
a
they're
public,
entitled
it's a
to
public
know.
document, people can read it. It's a public document.
Well, because it's a public document, people don't know about it. I mean, I have no idea what you're talking
But
about.
I mean, it affects what goes on in these meetings.
Counselor, do you
It
want to
affects
speak
us.
on behalf of this city about the lawsuit that is ongoing?
Well, I can't say that I'm qualified to speak on his lawsuit. I know that the city has shut everything down as far as the neighborhood associations. In fact, I'm sitting here writing an email to the legal department and community development to say, we need to fill our vacant officer positions.
Yes.
We need to do this despite his lawsuit. It shouldn't have anything to do with us having officers that we can contact by phone, text, email, and get a response. So I'm just asking them, what's the plan here? Do we have to wait till hell freezes over? Because that's how long this is taking. I mean, these are neighborhood officer positions. It's not an elected position. It's not a government position. It's not prestigious. You don't get a crown and, there's not much really to brag about. Really.
But you're asking people to communicate who don't want to communicate.
Well, I can't make Rob answer the phone, email, or text. I can't make people be nice to each other. I can't even be nice sometimes. Especially if I get tired enough of a subject like short-term rentals, Josh and my favorite thing. So the city, for some reason, their legal department has decided that, they were saying we could fill vacant positions. Now they're not even letting us do that, but we need to do something. What
I'm
happens
just asking if you come back next meeting, will you have some kind of
Well, I
an
hope.
answer? As best you can.
I hope, and if I get an answer, we'll be glad to send it out.
Because we're just stagnant, we're adrift.
Well,
We're just floating.
we are a mess, but we need to keep the problem people. All of us can go around the problem people. It's just so much easier when you don't have any. So,
Well, that's exactly what I've been doing, because I don't get a response. I'll send emails, texts, and it's at the very last second that I'll get a response. But for Green 311 is great. I go there all the time. The highway needs to be cleaned up. Green Springs, it's back nasty again, and, we need to pull together, or we get the city, or just there's.
And the cleanup of the highway is one of my questions for the mayor tomorrow, because supposedly, a year or two ago, he personally talked to the man who owns that piece of property that's full of all the mess that the homeless drug people have left there, and nothing happened. So I'm gonna ask him tomorrow, hey, what was the result of y'all's conversation? Because I can't tell anything.
Dr. Lee has all that contact information, because I gave it to him. But even, not
We
just
can,
that
we
property.
can open a store, because there's enough grocery carts in those bushes to sink a battleship. Of course, they all have a different store's name on them, but, we have lots of issues we can work on and just go around the bumps in the road.
But we're kind of tired of going around.
And I think most people just want to work on this issue of leadership.
Yeah.
Let's get it resolved and move on with new leadership, or the same leadership.
I'll get an answer, I hope, to my email.
Thank you.
So, and I'll share it.
This sounds like a very controversial issue.
It is.
And with that said, and since this is an election year, is that the reason
it's not
why
election
the
year.
lawsuit
Well,
hasn't
we were
been
supposed
resolved?
to have elections in October, but we can't have elections.
No, I'm talking about city and mayor.
Yeah, in August.
Yeah,
Two
so
totally
this is
August
an
the
election.
Totally different
26th,
things.
7th.
We're talking about the election of neighborhood officers.
Neighborhood officers.
This is election year for mayor, council, and board of education.
But not us.
And I'm just asking, is that the reason why the lawsuit has not gone anywhere?
No.
I know that politicians are afraid to get into anything controversial.
No,
when there
this
are
is the
elections.
city's legal department and whatever the court system is, and it doesn't have anything to do with the city elected officials dragging their feet or anything. There'll be a city election for council members in August, and we'll get rid of some and get some new ones, and keep a few, just like always.
Rob, would you let me make one statement? What I'd like to do is if you could at least check in with Councilor Abbott's office on a routine basis, and we can filter our questions to Dr. Lee and try to get some communication, because there has been more than one incident that we have not been able to communicate by email with you.
I encourage everybody to send that information to Dr. Lee, and I will absolutely continue to communicate with them 100%. I'm agreeing to what you
I
said.
understand what you said, yes. I acknowledge what you said.
All right, moving on. So we don't have Board of Education here. Mr. Templeton?
Hi, Ryan Griffin of UAB, I'm the Director of Planning, Design, and Construction. I know we have been bad neighbors in the past. I hope we are being better neighbors. I don't have a whole lot to report tonight. We've got construction projects that are big projects that are ongoing. I don't think there's anything that impacts the neighborhood right now. I think all of our streets are open except for 7th Avenue, which should be open maybe in the summer sometime. So it's gonna be closed for a little bit longer, but that's not directly impacting the neighborhood. I think y'all are aware of all of our big projects that are coming through. The last big one was the emergency department North Pavilion that we showed. So I am happy to answer any questions or take any comments or complaints. I know the last time I was here, we were having some issues with an off-campus house that we thought was occupied by a fraternity or some people. Hopefully, I mean, classes have kind of just started back up, so hopefully they aren't causing a whole lot of problems yet. But if they are, please let me know. We are serious about trying to address that.
Yes, they are.
They are still causing problems.
Where is this place?
And it's immensely trashy dump. If you go to walk on the Vulcan Trail and you have to look at that place, every time you walk up there, it is just a dump. They keep the yard looking like a beer party happens every 15 minutes.
Okay,
what they have.
It's just a, I don't know what its number is, the end house before you get to the lovely
I've got that
mountainside
address
of
from the last time we
Providence,
talked
or
about
Mountain
it.
View.
The people that live next door have put their house up for sale because they have children and they can't get any sleep.
Okay.
And they're UAB frat boys.
Yes, I will pass that along to our student affairs people that are also very interested in hearing about this. Please let me know if this escalates or continues, and I apologize from UAB. This is not the image that we want, and I will say, like, it's hard for us to control our students as private citizens. But I know that's not a good excuse.
Do we know what frat they're in? I was the president of my sorority in college, and so I know that if my national organization contacted me to be like, people have complained about you, because I was also in college, right? I wouldn't care what my college said, but if my Greek organization, you know, says with the kibosh on it,
Is
can we
the
just
frat
like
house
give them?
being used loosely, or are they actually an organized fraternity?
Yeah, some of the frat boys came and apologized for their buddies,
Yes.
but then nothing happened.
We know the name of the fraternity. It is not an official fraternity house. So it's just people who live there who host, I don't actually know, I have to look it up, but I have it from the last time we met. But I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And it would actually be a lot better for the neighborhood to contact the national chapter or the national organization than it is for us, I believe. So we will do that. But I think the neighborhood and the residents reaching out to that group, that's actually a really good idea.
Trying to work together, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And also, if you can find out who their insurance company is, insurance companies are always fascinated to find out that their insured properties have been turned into frat houses. That gets them all excited and they cancel the insurance right
I
away.
think that would be an issue with the landlord, not with the university.
Yeah, but the landlord, yeah, but just if anybody
Yeah.
has a way to
That's another
find
great
it out.
idea, yeah.
It
I mean,
works.
work with the landlord about how problematic their tenants are.
Is there some way we can get the name of the fraternity so that we can look it up?
I will look and see if I have it from my notes from the last time.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
you
like
can-
that,
you can-
like Greeks.
Rob, didn't they identify
So
themselves
what makes
when
that
they
happen
came, those
official?
boys that came to apologize?
To be honest, I don't know because we don't
Maybe
have
in a house.
an official on-campus house.
I can't remember.
Well, I mean, I know it's a private residence. so we
Seems
said
like they
official
told
frat
you
house.
they were.
Because it is not.
Yeah.
They don't even, no one
Yeah.
Our fraternity even says, it's just a group of their members. So they have added a
At first I will add to like one, and I did
Can I
sign
ask one
with
quick question?
Of course, yeah.
It's
I'll
about 5.7, not us.
Right.
UAB Highlands has now go to pay parking in their lot decks. Has that impacted 5 Points much?
I have not heard.
Off, you know, just off.
But I've not, I imagine it will, we didn't, I didn't hear anything in the January 5 Point South meeting.
Cause it just went into
Cause
effect.
it just happened, but again, our students weren't back, or had just gotten back, so our students came back on Tuesday, and we met on Tuesday, kind of thing, so that's a good question, and ask me again next month, because we will have had our 5 Points meeting since then.
And I have seen an impact over there, like near the UAB police station and behind
Oh,
the
yeah.
parking area. People are coming in there and parking all over everything. They pull up over the curbs, they park, they're just everywhere. And it's not neighborhood people. These are UAB, either
Students are
employees or students, but they come and they just, if it's parkable, they park on it. So, they're there. I've seen them. I've taken pictures.
So before we move over, who will you contact about somebody in this room? Bev or this young lady right here? Who would like to be contacted, so we have?
If anyone, I can write the complaint as soon as they're not
But we just need to know who it is, so after we leave this meeting, he needs to contact somebody and say, this is the concern.
I'm contacting our officials at UAB who are over our students. So I will talk to our student affairs. I mean, if you want me to respond, I can respond to your president.
Yeah.
Or I can come back and report to them. I'll be here at the next meeting.
Yeah, anybody
So I can report to the official.
PTO.
So they can tell the neighborhood what's going on.
Sure, I'll be here next month.
Okay.
Yeah, I got the information from Edward, yeah.
Okay.
It's the ATO.
ATO, that's right.
Anybody have any other questions or comments for Mr. Templeton?
ATO used to be in Glen Iris Park.
Really?
They were in the Jemison house.
How the hell did they afford that?
Dr. McCullough.
Ah.
We've had experience. They're a classy bunch.
Sarcasm, that's amazing.
Okay, moving on to project updates. First off, a positive thing, we finally have our signs. We've got 20 of them, so we can start putting these up. We probably need to change this, like, you and I, if you'd be willing to help, but we need to change what that was too. Probably the Facebook group.
Yeah, are these already printed?
Yep.
I don't know how to change the QR code. I did the sign design.
I was gonna say, I really like that.
Yeah.
I did too.
Thank you
Well,
guys.
yeah,
Thank you. Yeah. We'll figure out the QR code.
So after we figure out the QR code, anybody who's interested in helping distribute them, we'll need to put them out and take people, so whoever ends up wanting to be a part of it, we need to be responsible for both putting it out and taking it back and holding on.
So if you don't do the QR code, you don't.
Does the QR code go to the website?
It used to.
Yeah, so in the interim, as I was just saying, is it should probably go to the Facebook group, and then in the future, if
Will it tell the date?
tell the date.
It probably should go to the website because it would be easier to change the website if I change 20 QR codes.
The website is the
Doesn't say
one.
Monday.
It would be 20 different QR codes.
20 different signs.
Yeah, my original design did say Monday.
It does.
Like this Monday, so I don't know why it says this month.
Oh. That's a good, yeah.
The month has at least
You're
28
right.
days.
Because I'm looking at the designs I sent in September of 2023.
Well, I will contact them
Okay.
and see if we can get it changed. Because
That would help.
I didn't even notice that it missed it.
Do you think those will be available at the next meeting to distribute to folks at the next meeting?
I would love to. I'll contact the person there tomorrow about that issue. And so it can partially depend on how long it takes them to print it. But it shouldn't take them long. I mean, it's usually really quick.
Because it'd be nice if it says this Monday or this month even,
Yeah,
then when you go to the QR code, it tells you everything you need to know about the meeting, the agenda, past agenda, all that sort of business. Because I'm here from the Rockford Neighborhood Association. We're on the other side of the mountain. You've seen me several times at meetings, and then I kind of like this gentleman just decided it was too much trouble to come. But we have sandwich boards at the entrances to our neighborhood, and so we could easily put that at both entrances, because I've been telling them that we're trying to get city services, and we're just, I'll use my opinion, we're being ignored by the city, even when we use 311, and so I've been trying to convince them to come here, because this organization or association is the direct line to the city government, not ours. And so we come in and complain about the potholes, and one whole circle needs to be repaved, and Ms. Abbott and I've talked about that on numerous occasions, but nothing seems to get done there. So I'm trying to get our neighborhood association members to come to this meeting, and it's been a true struggle to do it. But if so, you'd have, this whole room would be full.
yeah, there's like at least one or two scenarios where y'all did like pack out these meetings, which are specific to the Rise property stuff, but I think that would be a perfect example of a placement.
Yeah, and of people working together to try to get to a common good. So I'd like to try to see about getting a couple of those next meeting.
Fantastic.
So on those signs that I'm assuming they're gonna be passed out to residents?
Yes.
Yes, so we'll have 20 of them, so we'll just need to like, it's similar to what, they did recruiting block captains, right? We can basically create like, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be 20 different ones, but we'll basically create a list. Who is responsible for each sign? Somebody might be responsible for more than one sign, just like block captains, there was some folks, I think, are responsible for more than one street, right? And so we can create that list, like, each person is then responsible for putting it out, say this day, and then taking it in, say, Tuesday after the game or something.
Okay, so they're not staying in the residents' control, they're gonna be put in their yard, and then somebody else is gonna come up and pick it up, they just have to give approval for it to be in their
We'll
yard?
take them home and
No,
put them back.
whoever's responsible for it will hold on to it in between meetings. But they will be the neighborhood signs, right? So like if that individual moved or something, they would be responsible for giving the sign that they're responsible for back to the neighborhood association, in which case somebody else would then become responsible for that sign.
May I make a suggestion? We already have a number, and I'm not sure what that number is, of neighborhood block captains. Why not have the block captain, whoever that is, and how many we have them put out the signs in their neighborhood, in their block?
You're talking about the block captains related to public safety. Yeah,
Right.
if you're watching. I think we can absolutely talk about that if there's, I can see you, right? I mean, there might be some interest there and there might not. Like, I think if some of those block captains are interested in playing that role, I think that would be a great way to work together with it. But it might not be the case. It might not just be simple as that.
Can I say something, Rob? Now, that's a really good suggestion, but in our neighborhood association, we've got 114 single-family resident homes. And the problem with that, I went through a divorce and tried to get the block watch party started, but there was so much complexity in our own neighborhood that she said, well, one person can't be the block watch party for the whole neighborhood. And so I exhaustively tried to recruit people, and finally I just threw my hands up and said, fine, we just won't have a block watch thing. But I want two of those sides. I want, because we have a sandwich board that we put at the entrances that we talk about when our meeting is, our board meeting is. And so that at least when people that are coming home will see it just like they see our side. So it won't be it shouldn't be just to the block party, because we don't have one.
And I think
But I'm volunteering to take two of them.
I think to kind of, what I feel like I heard from you too is you were talking about a strategic place, which is a lot of through traffic. And I think that's.
Well, they gotta come in and out of the two entrances we have, they gotta see them coming in.
So I will work on that edit. Thank you for noticing that edit. I did not notice that, and I think that up this week. So, we'll pick up this conversation next month, and hopefully we'll have the newly printed signs by then. So I know there's been one of the other projects that's outstanding, which is a lot of conversation, of course, in the neighborhood, is is related to our speed cushions. So I know that you wanted to speak on that. Would you like to?
Well, I live on 16th Avenue South, at the corner of 16th Avenue and Ken Place. I don't know how many speed bumps we're supposed to get, but I know the money's been allocated, it's been paid for, I think. But so far, we've not seen speed bumps. There were 3 wrecks in the last, 6 or 8 months at that intersection. One of the wrecks affected a visitor, one of your parents' car that was parked out in front of 16th Avenue. 2 of the wrecks affected my vehicles parked out on 16th Avenue.
Two weeks ago, somebody sideswiped both the neighbors next door to me. Both of their cars at one time, both got sideswiped.
Well, my car was totaled and the trailer behind it was also totaled. So, we definitely need something. In fact, I was texting last night with Teresa, and while I was texting with her, people were racing up and down 16th Avenue South. So, I'm here just to find out what the status is of that project, because where I stand, where I sit, where I live, 16th Avenue has become a nuisance. It really is. Because, number one, we've got parents and children walking their kids to Glen Iris School. We've got people walking their dogs, people walking their babies along 16th Avenue. We've got people who just walk, people who jog. It's a it's a very active street. And for us to be, I've seen other, speed breakers in other parts of the neighborhood. My question is, why haven't we gotten, the speed breakers on 16th Avenue?
Yep. So initially, we had been told that they were doing the 11th Place South ones first. I don't think
They're in, or at least some of them are.
They're in,
Yeah.
there are about 4.
And they put them in the
And
wrong
then-
places.
Did they?
Yeah.
And so, and then they would be installing the other 2 afterwards. And today, they've never given us a time. It sounds like, maybe they we need to see if they've finished installing the 11th
You
place,
have to nag them and nag them
Oh, yeah.
and nag them, because the squeaky wheel in the Department of Transportation of the city of Birmingham, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Oh, yeah. So we've been we were emailing, Alice was the primary one emailing them, but originally probably at least once a month. And then after I got the email from, Teresa and yourself, I sent a follow-up email as well, asking James Fowler, who's the director, what the updates are for that. So he has not responded to that email yet, but obviously I'll keep up with that. But to the point Councilor Abbott made as well, I would, if anybody doesn't have James Fowler's information, I can email it. I would recommend.
I'll contact them.
Great, yeah, I would recommend people contact them and be like, look, these are safety issues and this has been, 2 years or something at this point? So James Fowler, he's the director of the Birmingham Department of
Transportation.
Sorry, that's correct, transportation. And his email address is?
James.Fowler@birminghamal.gov.
Anybody hear that?
At BirminghamAL.gov?
Yeah.
Is there an
You have to
office
spell
number?
Birmingham all the way out. We're trying to wear you down.
Hoping you'll forget to email her.
James.Fowler@birminghamal.gov, and his phone number is 205-254-2622. If you really want his mobile number, I'll give that to you, but I feel a little guilty about that.
So, is it two?
Well, maybe if we try to get in touch with him for a month and he doesn't answer, I'll give you his mobile number.
Number again, 205?
205-254-2622.
2622.
But that's his office, like,
Yeah.
old timey phone that you have to pick up.
Cool. Yes, so,
I brought this up, maybe at the last meeting that I attended. One of the things that for once, I can agree with what Birmingham is doing, and that is until that damn sewer line replacement, water line replacement is finished, they aren't gonna put anything down that's gonna end up getting torn up. And over this past weekend, contractors for the other thing were digging on Green Springs Avenue again, and they were there again this morning. They're working their way down, and once that's done, then maybe the city will go ahead and put in the traffic tables so they don't have to put them in for the third time.
is there any, do we know if there's any plans though for 16th?
What?
Do we know if there's any plans for digging up on 16th?
Oh, they're digging
They're
up
working
16th too.
They're working their way around, sort of in the
But
order
they're
they did
digging up the
the
sidewalk.
original digging.
Yeah, my yard's tore up big time.
Mine had been in the past.
Yeah, they're not
Been in
digging
the
up
street.
street.
And these are the, 16th, they're digging up the sidewalks and the rights of way. They hadn't gotten to the street yet.
They got our, for me, they got our gutter. That was, no big deal. But still,
Will you ever
you
get
could drive into it. But they got sidewalks and front walks and driveways for some houses, depending on where the lines are at. And part of the problem is the maps that showed you where the lines were supposed to be weren't right, and so they dug in more than one. It's typical of municipal maintenance pretty much anywhere, not just Birmingham.
I think that's very fair. That being said, I would also say it'd be nice to at least get communication about what's going on and what they're, like, if that's the rationale, it'd be nice for them to let us know, like, hey, the reason why we don't have a timeline for it is because we're waiting for that. Which is something that we, like, if that's the rationale, that is
I
not.
walked out the front door and
communicated.
asked. It's amazing what talking to somebody does.
But you have to be home when they come.
That's one of the joys of being retired.
It's a joy.
Yeah, does anybody have any other questions or comments about this conversation around clean cushions?
Just that I've helped pull multiple
case you
people
get
out of cars
lonely.
after really terrible accidents right next to Anthony, and we're one accident away from someone getting very seriously hurt. It's really scary. These have been cars coming 55, 60 miles an hour, zooming down 16th and hitting people. It's really scary. It sounds like an explosion going off in your house.
That's horrific.
Well, one thing, and I hate to keep butting in, but the Department of Transportation loves stop signs more than anything else on earth. So you could just ask for stop signs.
Why don't we have stop signs on that street?
Well, see,
It's
the
crazy.
past guy refused, but this guy, he loves them. They're all over the
I
place.
think
We
we
could have put
did,
those in a day.
I think we did submit those, but what we can do is
Do it
re-up-
again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we can re-uplift that request that we previously made. What was
Because
that, probably-
That was the
children,
very first
Stop
neighborhood
signs on-
association meeting I went to over
twice.
2 years ago.
Okay.
11th,
we need to ask
Street.
again because they put them all over 5 Points South. They have you stopping for no apparent reason all over the
I mean, it
place.
took
That
us
was me,
50
I
years to
got
get
sorry.
to the top of 16th.
I know,
Then
but
it's
those were, that was a different guy.
So I can definitely commit to personally re-uplifting that request and specifically pointing our previous, because we voted on it, right? It was like, we made a vote of request. So I'll definitely uplift that. But I would also state, just like we've been talking about, is everybody now got James Fowler's contact information. I recommend everybody reach out to James Fowler. If you want a stop sign on 60, contact him. Let him know and let him know why. I think that the fact that there's been, what the two of y'all are saying and what's going on, at least to me, is really powerful. I mean, I know that they're gonna have a conversation of like, you know, we're gonna do official studies, whatever. But I
They
mean,
don't
I
do
think that-
studies anymore. They don't.
They still have this
But I
federal
think that
standard.
human element story is
They don't
and
follow
so,
it.
I know, I mean,
and if you want a copy of what we had officially submitted back in the day, I'm happy to share it. I mean, this goes for anybody too. I'm happy to share it so people can have the official like list, right?
Can you repost it to the group website?
Sure.
On Facebook?
I can repost it to the group, it's no problem.
That'd be great. That way everybody would have it.
I have a question. We also had requested, a little over a year ago, where they were putting those apartments up on top of our residential neighborhood. The speed coming off that hill is extremely fast. Coming out of our neighborhood, there's a bus stop at the bottom, and then we also had requested some speed humps. I'm not sure who the person was, you can only fight so many battles at a time, but I did contact someone with, I guess, AlDOT, and this was her response. We have to first come out there and put in these counters that tell you the speed of the cars coming down the hill and how many there are and at what time. And I said, well, that sounds great, that's moving in the right direction. So I asked her when, and she said, oh, it may take a year or two to do that.
Did you go to AlDOT or Birmingham?
I'm not sure who it was, to be honest with you, Rob, I don't know who it was. It was somebody that I got on the phone after inquiring about how we get those speed humps, because they had to, or I think maybe in this meeting, it said it has to be justified, you can't just put them anywhere. So I said, okay, that's fair. So I got this person on the phone, and she was not very encouraging about ever getting it done.
That's because everybody in Birmingham is asking
Yeah.
for them now, because they know they just willy-nilly put them places. The neighborhood has to vote half the money, and then voila, you get them. And except for places that really need them, and they turn them down.
Well, and, you know, my personal opinion that this was needed because if you're coming out at the bottom of the hill, it's only on East Beacon, not on West Beacon. As they come down that hill, they're coming so fast that even if you look and you look the other way, by the time you look back, they're on. And so you could easily get side T-boned there. So that'll be another thing in the future, for the future. But I was writing when you were writing, so if I could just get this James Fowler after the meeting's over, get Fowler's information, and you say that's the person I just need to contact and go back to him.
Yeah, in terms of stuff from your area too, there's actually two different votes, because there's one which we had voted on the list, which is the same list. There were some issues that y'all had requested us to have on that list. And when we had submitted that list, they said, they started off by basically being like, we're gonna focus on these three things, which are the speed cushions that have been a forever thing. And then there were some other issues that you had brought up. For example, we ended up working with the Birmingham Department of Education for instead. So there was some efforts to try and get some other things done off that list. It wasn't specifically, didn't end up being just through Department of Transit, but I don't think they ended up doing any of the items from that initial list in your area. And then to the point you just made, there was a secondary vote that we had about a year ago for those speed cushions that they
So
basically
what's
had
your
to
best
do.
advice for me in our neighborhood as of today? What's your best advice?
I'm sorry, you might.
What's your best advice to try to get that brought up, or do I need to bring it up right now in this meeting and make it official?
Well, as I said, I'm happy to re-uplift these issues, but I also, I agree with Councilor Abbott, the squeaky wheel is what gets stuff done. So I would recommend everybody to also contact, because it's yes, I also, I have a responsibility to do that as well, but if they just hear from me, if all they're hearing is from me, they're less likely to do it than if it's from me and
It's just frustrating to deal with the bureaucracy of it all, because, we've been going on in Miss Abbott, and I've talked, I guess, for almost 2 years now, about some paving and potholes, and I'll call and say I need a pothole done, and they might come, they might not, and when they do, they'll fix this pothole, but the one 2 feet away from it, they'll leave it open. And so it's just difficult dealing with bureaucracy when common sense is not being used. And I guess we just gotta deal with bureaucracy. And I need whatever you take for patience.
I'll just say, when I post that list again from 2 years ago to the
Yeah, this
Facebook
lets
group,
move
I
on.
will include in that post James Fowler's office number and work email.
Speaking of, dealing with bureaucracy,
No,
didn't we used to have, media coverage for our meetings, these meetings?
No,
no,
Didn't we,
no,
no.
no,
at one point?
no.
It must have been a controversial issue.
Oh, it was what, like when they were wanting to take all the baseball fields away from George Ward, yeah, they came for that, but they only come if they think they might see blood.
Yeah,
That's the truth.
it would be good if we could put some pressure on the media from the city.
If everybody comes to the city council meeting and speaks out about it, then you get attention. That's how it works, but it takes half a day.
Okay, neighborhood committees, I know we kind of already talked about some of these topics. Tony, do you have any other updates related to beautification? Other than what we've already talked about today?
Yeah, we don't have anything to talk about. No updates.
I don't either. Teresa, any updates for Black Watch?
I wanna encourage what we heard the officer say today, and I posted something on Facebook. Yeah, when we see something and you like you said what that guy did, but we do need to call and report it, so and I should have done it. I'm a Black Watch captain, and I was scared to death, but I was so scared, I ran home to my husband who was out in the front yard, and I said, did you, anyway. So we need to do that. The other thing, just I want to report, Judy Zayden had gotten in touch with the art owner, Tony, and put him together with Lieutenant Callahan, who is the one that what are those apartments up there that we've talked about, where they put the cameras, you know? Mountaintop. So he's supposed to be working with us to put some cameras up to watch around that building. Because we've had 2 fires, really 3 fires, a death, and there's still activity going in the back of that building. And, you know, they're putting graffiti on it and stuff like that. So that's going on, but I don't know where that stands. But that's just recently happened. That's all.
Does anybody have any questions for Teresa?
Are those flock cameras by any chance?
I have no idea what kind they are.
I know we've already talked about north side, south side. For waste management, I know that I put the flyers out there, but I'm sure most folks already know, but just, you know, it's been shifted, the schedules for recycling, bulk trash, and garbage have been changed. One of the things, and you can see it in there's information about it in one of the links I put in the email, but one of the things when they first announced this was I had a question about how they would be handling recycling pickup since they haven't distributed all recycling cans. And so they've said that they are still picking up. If you have not received a blue can, first of all, you can still request one. Though at this time, to my understanding, the city does not have explicit funds for purchasing new ones, but is working on that. Is that correct?
That's what we've heard.
Okay. So if you go ahead and, you can go ahead and sign up, and when you do, as soon as the city has more blue trash cans to distribute, they will. In the interim, in the future, they will move to only picking up if you have a blue trash can, or a blue recycling can. In the short term, you can still put out your recycling if you do not have a blue container on recycling day, and they will pick it up. And they haven't released a timeline for when that will change. Just that it will happen at some supposed date in the future. So that's one of the links. It talks about that too. When I sent that ask, they sent me a link to a city site about Birmingham Recycle or something. Does anybody have any questions about the new Yes, Steve?
This is not about it, but if we could come back to the communication committee, we skimmed over that one.
Okay, I just said I didn't have any updates, but, sure, do you wanna do any
I guess,
updates?
am I still part of the committee, or have I been removed?
You haven't been removed, it's just,
It's you, Mike, and myself, I guess. The only thing I'd like to bring up is, that since this is an election year, in the past, we've always been very restrictive what we're allowed to post in the Facebook group. What I would propose is that the administrators of our Facebook group probably need to pull together. I'll pull together a draft of what we did before, let y'all agree with it, and then we can post that. That way we can make sure that everybody is on the same page as we move forward.
that sounds perfect.
There
Thank you
is
so
a new
much.
website for the city of Birmingham. We've shared that. It's a little bit more user-friendly. It's still not as user-friendly, but that is something that we do have.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Beth. Do you have anything else to share?
It's got it.
Great. I appreciate that. So I will just open the floor. Does anybody have any other announcements, ongoings in the neighborhood, et cetera?
I have a question on the last, so I noticed that garbage and recycling are picked up on the same day every
That's
other
right.
week. Do we know for a fact that the city is actually recycling?
Yeah, they're in
this material?
separate trucks, they don't pick it all up in
Well, I
one
know
truck.
there's separate trucks, but I mean.
It goes to Birmingham Recycling on 41st Street, it gets recycled. Unless it's wet. Now, if you haven't cleaned out your cans and you've put wet newspaper in there, it goes to the dump. I mean, you have to be
Sensible.
Common sense.
The link that I included as well that I sent out, and it's a city site, but it also does include for recycling, like exactly what can and cannot be recycled. So I would definitely recommend, if you
Read
have
it.
not, read it,
Reading is
and make
something.
sure that you know what's allowed to be recycled and not. Yes, so,
This is recycling, but it's entirely different. If you are a glass recycler, how many trips do you make to Target?
So many.
I don't anymore.
Is it good at Target?
I contracted with a company called Glass Half Full. Look them up, they'll come talk to you. And they come once a month. You put your little blue bin out for them, and I have two because I drink a lot of wine.
I was about to say.
And they take away the two full ones and they give me two empty ones, which I'm already holding bottles for. So you
They give
can
you
save
two full wine bottles?
Half 2 liter, whatever those things are, they're big.
I love it.
Plus all the pickle jars and, anyway,
Blame it on the table.
What do they charge for that?
I don't remember, but it's worth every penny.
Hope, could you repost that to the open group? Sure. Thank you so much.
I've done it before. Glass Half Full. They started out in New Orleans, a couple of college kids, and they have a well laid out plan of what they do with the glass that they crush. And they sell it for paving additives, for mulch. They have a way to get rid of it that they had even before they started this program. And Birmingham is the first city in Alabama that they started it in, and they started on South Side. And even though we're pitiful at recycling, I'm sorry, when I first started recycling, there were like 6 houses on 6 blocks that actually recycled. But they're making money at it. And like I said, if you need two, they'll bring them to you, and they swap them out. They have a website, so go ahead and look them up and sign up.
For a profit, they should pick it
For
up.
those of you who Target.
See, now you're starting to talk about when you get to listeners.
If you don't want to pay.
Why do you do that? Sand is a great thing for using. It's free. All of that stuff. There's just so I can see everybody's ready to move. It sounds like there's no more announcements then. Is there any, did you
One more thing,
announce?
on this agenda that we're looking at, that, not only is the date wrong at the top of 24, the next meeting is saying it's in 24 as well.
24th.
Yeah, March the 3rd, 2024.
Oh,
Very bottom of this agenda.
cool, thank you so much. Any motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Any second? Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Abstentions? Everybody have a good night.